7 years ago, Grinding Games announced Path of Exile 2 would be coming out, a massive expansion to Path of Exile 1. They wanted to update their beloved ARPG without splitting the player base, and they were designing just an updated version of the same game, everything people knew and loved. They were updating the skill jump system to be less frustrating. They were adding a new modernized 7-act campaign to the game, and they were overhauling graphics, animations, and so much more while keeping the core experience of Path of Exile the same. Path of Exile 2 was not making the mistake many sequels of other franchises had made, wherein the player base would be divided, split, arguing over attention to each game, arguing over the direction of each game, and all the rest. This moment right here is probably one of my favorite moments in all of Path of Exile history. I started playing Path of Exile 1 literally the day before Chris Wilson went on stage at ExileCon in Auckland, New Zealand, and gave this keynote address. This is the final moments of it, showcasing the initial Path of Exile 2 trailer, and it's Chris Wilson explaining why they're making the right decision here. And I think it's incredibly interesting. It's important to the current discussion that we are having, because I agree with everything Chris is saying here. And even if you set all of the gameplay disagreements and vision discussions aside, just looking at the raw facts, what Chris, former game director on PoE2 and one of the co-founders of Grinding Gear Games, what he says here makes so much sense. So I thought it would be cool to listen in on this and kind of reflect on where we are today in the stories of Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2. Let me play it right here. It's the end of the trailer. Little laggy. One game, two campaigns. This is the moment.
Well, that feels amazing. Thank you. Path of Exile 2 is a storyline set 20 years after the defeat of Katava. When we finished developing 3.0, we knew that we couldn't extend Path of Exile's campaign forever. Adding more acts would make the game just too long before players got to maps. At the same time, we knew we really needed to bring the quality of Path of Exile's campaign up to a 2019 standard. We realized that we needed to make a new campaign. For years now, we've been wanting to make a sequel to Path of Exile. The problem with that, though, is that sequels split a community between two products. It's also hard for a sequel to compete with the amount of content and features that the original game has. We've just spent 6 years making expansions for Path of Exile, so imagine if we released a Path of Exile 2 and it was just a bare campaign with none of that extra content. This would be a sad shell of an action RPG compared to the current state of Path of Exile. It'd have none of the years of expansion content and improvements that make the game great. So we're creating Path of Exile 2 as a new campaign alongside Path of Exile 1 with a shared endgame. The original campaign is still fully playable, and because it's the same game, it'll still continue to be maintained with all of the updates and game system improvements that we'll make to Path of Exile. When we add new skills to the game, you'll be able to play with them in either the Path of Exile 1 or Path of Exile 2 campaign, and all of the microtransactions and stash tabs that you've purchased in the past will be fully usable regardless of which campaign that you're playing.
Okay. And that's the skinny of it. Now, there's two ideas here, everyone. And I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Idea number one, they split out PoE2 because it was such a different game. That was the big pitch to many people back in 2023 when they publicly announced this. They had made the decision in 2021, but they waited 2 years to announce it at ExileCon 2023. They had a very different gameplay vision for the game. They didn't want all of the baggage of Path of Exile 1 in Path of Exile 2 because what they ended up designing was so fundamentally different. Idea number two is they were so ambitious with Path of Exile 2, they couldn't realistically backport a lot of the things they wanted to do to Path of Exile 1 without substantially more work. I'm talking about the animation overhauls. I'm talking about them not being able to really add all these new classes to compete with the existing classes. Maybe it was more of a development thing, a development challenge than an actual, okay, we're making a completely different game. Because if you are not making a completely different game, why are we in this state that we're in? Chris just outlined it perfectly. He predicted the future, and I'm sure Jonathan and Mark and all the other very smart devs at GGG understand this too. Exactly what he predicted there has happened. Yes, they're doing a good job porting content and all the rest, but ultimately, at the end of the day, what has occurred is there has been a fragmentation, a split, a confusion between the player bases. I'm not responding to any of the comments on that video that blew up about Path of Exile 2 making a stand very intentionally, but reading them, the dichotomy is so fascinating. There are numerous, I think the majority of people who commented on that video who agree with me. They might disagree in some regards, but they also expected something totally different with Path of Exile 2 because that was the pitch, and they are shocked to see what it has become. Some of them are still enjoying it, just like I'm still enjoying it. Others have moved on, and they're not coming back unless something completely reverses, and I don't think that's too likely. And then there's the other side of, this is an action RPG. Of course it was going to be just like Path of Exile 1. Of course it's going to be like Diablo 4, Last Epoch, the zoomy gameplay. What are you expecting? It's hack and slash. This was always going to be a Path of Exile 1.5. And I think that argument is just destroyed by Chris Wilson right here. I think he does it the best job. He does it in less words than I do and less time than I do. And he's doing it without seeing what has occurred with Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1 and the whole debacle that has essentially ensued. I just thought it would be an interesting watch, everybody. Reflect on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's fascinating. I love that guy. I seriously love listening to him talk. His YouTube channel is amazing. Don't sub to just my channel. Go sub to Chris Wilson's YouTube channel. It is excellent. But at the end of the day, I really love both of these games. Love Path of Exile 2, and even if it doesn't turn out to be something fundamentally different than Path of Exile 1, I'm still going to play it. I still enjoy it, even if I think short term, this is going to be a win for grinding your games and the current community. But I think long term, the idea of the Path of Exile 1.5 is going to basically start to bleed out Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2 because they're going to be competing for the same audience. It's going to be difficult to attract more and more new players if they're I just think there's a lot of cons. Anyway, I have a big video on the main channel coming out about this soon. Just thought this would be a fun second channel video to do today. Peace out, everybody. Talk to you later.